We are on these wonderful journeys. We all have these divine paths. And they're exciting and scary, and at times when you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you feel all that and you're ready to throw up at the same time. But it's all good because you're moving forward. Now, another one of my favorite journeys is about a little boy. And I've read this little boy's journey often. And it just so happened they turned it into a movie. Who has seen The Polar Express? Oh my gosh, really? It is phenomenal. And just like I don't just listen to my grown-up Christmas list during the holidays, I have seen that movie so many times. My nephew and I will actually watch it together on the phone. He's in Florida and I'm in New York. And it's powerful. It's about a little boy who has stopped believing. But what I find interesting is he doesn't want to stop believing. He doesn't want to doubt, but unfortunately what has happened is he's become very concerned with the how of things. Has anybody been overly concerned about how things are happening? All of a sudden, this little boy needs tangible evidence. I need proof that this exists before I believe in it. Anybody else feel like that sometimes? Just show it. Look, if you just show it to me, I know it'll be good. And then I don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. And so he started worrying and thinking, how does Santa get to all those places in one night? How is Santa going to get all those presents on that sled? And then he has his friends who are also doubting, and they have their own ways of thinking, and he's starting to embrace a little bit of that too. He doesn't write a letter to Santa Claus that year. And on Christmas Eve, he is actually scared. He is in bed, wide awake, scared that he is never again going to hear the sound of Santa's sleigh bells. So if you've seen the movie, what happens next? Big old train comes racing down the street and it stops in front of his house. How cool! I wanted a train to stop in front of my house even as an adult. And the conductor comes out, and the little boy races out of his house. He's in his pajamas, his robe, and the conductor says, all aboard! This train is going to the North Pole. What an opportunity! This is exactly what he wants. I need proof the North Pole exists. I have a train. It's going to take me to the proof. Now, right now, I want you to imagine, in all this snow that's happening outside, that a train is coming up Broadway, and it stops in front of Symphony Space, on top of the street versus under it. Because we know it's coming. And the conductor steps out, and he looks at you, and he says, all aboard, and he lets you know that the very place that this train is going is exactly what you've been wanting, what you have been affirming, what you have been praying. The divine idea that came to you from God is going to be manifested if you get on that train. Do you get on? Here's what the little boy did, though. The conductor said, what? We've got a schedule to keep, and he gets on that train. And it isn't until the train is almost completely away from his house that the little boy runs and he gets on just in time. And oh my gosh, what an adventure. That train on its way to the North Pole was like a roller coaster. It was making dips and turns, rights and lefts, skishing into water. It's skating across ice. It is shooting straight with the air. It is racing down and around mountains. And that little boy has no idea how he's going to get there on this train. But along the way, he makes some really great friends. And even though he still is doubting, he is helping one boy make sure that that little boy understands that he deserves to be on that train, that that little boy who has also been doubting what Christmas is, that it is okay. And he also meets really interesting people. My favorite was the hobo. That hobo was under the train, on top of the train, everywhere on that train. And then their first conversation, I have a hobo impersonation. Okay, it's good. your take on the big guy, Santa? And the little boy, he stammers and he says, I want to believe. Yeah, sure you do, kid, but you don't want to be bamboozled, hoodwinked, let down, disappointed, duped. You are a doubter. And the little boy just shook his head yes, because if there was one thing that he was going to believe at that moment, is that he doubted. I know I've been there. The very thing I believed was that I doubted. But guess what? That train makes it to the North Pole, and the kids pile out, and they are racing to the center of town, and there is this amazing tree, and they are screaming, and they are yelling, hey! Oh my gosh, can you hear Santa's sleigh? It is the most beautiful, those bells, they're amazing. And the little boy's like, what are y'all talking about? I hear nothing. What he was hearing was the word doubter over and over in his head. And then another little boy screamed out, oh my gosh, I see him! I see Santa! So what happens? All the kids are piling on top of each other, the elves are piling on top of him. Now the little boy can't even see Santa. He can't see Santa, he can't hear the bells, he is pacing back and forth, he's frustrated, and all he wants to know is what is wrong with me? Why can I not hear those bells? Whew. And then, that conductor, that's a smart conductor. All of a sudden he's there and he shares some amazing wisdom. Sometimes seeing is believing. And sometimes the most real things in the world we can't see. Sometimes the most real things in the world we can't see. And that little boy stopped. He stopped pacing, he stopped being frustrated, and he just stood still. He took a deep breath, and he closed his eyes, and he said, I believe. And he heard the word doubter. But he wasn't going to give up. He kept those eyes closed. He took another deep breath and he said, I believe. And this time the word doubter was said a lot softer. And then he got a smile on his face and he stood a little straighter. And all that noise that had been around him, all the children that were laughing and yelling and singing and screaming, silence. It was just this little boy and spirit. And he took a deep breath again. And with all of the energy and joy and love, he shouted, I believe. And what do y'all think happened? He heard the sound of those sleigh bells. And it was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard. And it didn't end there because Santa selected him to get the very first Christmas gift that year. And he could have chosen anything he wanted, and it would have been his. And what he selected was one of Santa's sleigh bells. And that sleigh bell never stopped ringing, even when he became an adult. Because the story goes that the bell will always ring for those of us who believe. You know, for me, that sleigh bell, the sound of that sleigh bell is spirit. It is my still, small voice that is always there, ready to share some really amazing things. Now, raise your hand if you're related to even one part of that story. Me too. Now, think about 2010. How many opportunities did you have to say yes and you hesitated? Sometimes you said no. And then, of course, we really don't know how many opportunities there were because there were times where that flow was completely blocked because we weren't open and receptive and aware of our deserving good. You know, if you're like me, there are times where I'm here and I'm in the back and we're affirming and I'm not completely present. And I'm just mouthing the words, yeah, God is my one and only source, yay, meditation, woohoo, peace, joy, lunch. You know, and during that time, what's going on in my head is, well, who's going to want to publish my book? And who's going to want to read what I write? And, you know, and who, you know, where's my next gig? And all this other stuff. Instead of knowing, like I said earlier, breathing, living that oneness, that God is my one and only true source. If you're like me from time to time, we want to let God off the hook. We think we know it better. Listen, you have so many people that need you anyway. Let me have this one. And usually there's that struggle. But we just have to recenter ourselves. Stop. If there's one thing I can tell you, it's that you're worth the time to stop, to breathe, to connect and embrace your oneness with God. And I know that we're all very busy people, trust me, but if you've got time to post on Facebook, you have got time to be quiet and connect with God. Christmas, as Britt shared in the Daily Word, Christmas is the celebration of birth. I love that. It is our creative expression of new and limitless possibilities and opportunities. So I have a question for y'all. I always have questions. What is on your grown-up Christmas list? And you know what? I hope that you don't just write those lists at Christmas, that you connect with that throughout the year. What are you going to create, recreate, and give birth to in 2011 with God? I know for each and every one of you that your lists will be filled with nothing short, nothing? We'll go through that again. Your list will be filled with things that are nothing short of extraordinary. Live your lives big. Own your truth. And when those trains show up, make sure you jump on, because it doesn't matter where that train is going or how it's going to get you there. What matters is that you have decided to jump on. Thank you.